Okay, so our last segment here, and it's hot as hell here in LA, and I have my fan and my AC off. So
Here we
I'm
go.
literally covered in sweat.
Yeah, I
So
spilled my
the
AC
big
off
talk.
too. So yeah, let's do it.
So the big talk is now U.S. soccer. It's like, who's our next coach? And it's so funny. It's such a whodunit. When Germany needs a new coach, there's two guys. Is it going to be guy A or guy B? And it's usually guy A. But anyway, for the United States, it's different because it's whole like, do we need an MLS guy? Do we need a foreign guy? This, boop, bop, beep. There are so many odd choices, and everybody and their mother's throwing stuff in. So I've compiled a list of all the coaches I found that have been rumored to be interested, rumored to be approached, or pitched by a decent journalist like Paul Tenorio or the ESPN guys or the CBS guys or Henry Bushnell. I looked at all the lists. And I compiled a list of 30 names. 30 names. And I realized there's two or three that I'm going to add. There's two or three that I'm going to add.
Look at that. A PowerPoint.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I can get this. Okay. So I'm not going to be able... Okay, so Bjorn, I'm putting a bunch of things up. And then the way we'll do this is we give them a ranking out of 10, right? Or what? We talk about how realistic the target is, A. And then B, we give him a ranking of 1 to 10 of how good we think they'll be with the U.S. men's national team job, right?
Oof. Okay.
Something like that, or what do you think? Or just a thumbs up, thumbs down? How should we do this?
Thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down is better. I think. Let's be binary about it.
Let's just we see these coaches and we'll chat them up for a quick bit. Some pros and cons. We'll move on. Okay. Next U.S. coach. First things first.
Oh, it's her.
The dream candidate. The dream candidate is, of course...
Is that what she's doing? She's dreaming Jurgen Klopp.
Dreaming of Jurgen Klopp. Oh, it's our Klopp.
He already said no.
Klopp. He already said no. That is correct. I'll be honest with you, though. What do you think? 10 out of 10, though? Of next U.S. coach? 10 out of 10?
Well, can I go on a little detour here for a second?
Please.
I mean...
That's what this is for, yes.
The thing is... what makes a good coach? And I think you're right. The U.S. coaching position is unique in that way that it has to be somebody who's familiar with the U.S. system, because the U.S. system is different. It's very different from anywhere else. It's sort of an odd, like the coaching position is almost like a development. Like if you're coaching Germany, you got a great player pool, and if somebody gets picked for the national team, he's already good, and it's just confirmation that that guy is really good. In the US, it's not like that. A lot of like talents, young players, it's almost part like getting to the national team is almost like this, okay, we're going to help you get better kind of thing. Versus, so it's a little bit of a different skill set. Anyway, so for somebody at the top level, like Jurgen Klopp, who can basically at this point have any job he wants, the big question is, why would he want to do that? And I think you see a version of this in MLS, where European, the Frank de Boer types or whatever, come in with a big attitude and they're like, oh, I've forgotten more about soccer than you guys will ever know.
Yeah.
And then
they fail.
And then they fail because they don't approach it with the humility and enthusiasm and understanding for the idiosyncrasies and the way that it's not Europe. And I think would be my caveat for all of these big names.
There are two big names.
And I would say 10 out of 10 with the caveat of if he really wants to do it. And
he doesn't. He's already turned it down.
And in this case, we know he does not.
However, just hypothetical. So the reality of him being a coach is like 1 out of 10 at best. But the job he'll do, I totally understand what you're saying. But I think ideally he would be like the perfect coach of all the next 30 candidates we're sharing. I think he's rightfully number one, first guy offered. I believe. Because Jurgen Klopp is a top-level manager where, yes, they deal with big money and boop-boop-pa-pa-pa, and the players are already developed. But Jurgen Klopp specifically did it on a budget relative to his clubs with Dortmund and with Liverpool. Like with Liverpool, he was up against Man City, and he did it at a sixth of the budget. And Jurgen Klopp's specialty is making players amazing who aren't amazing anywhere else. Mohamed Salah was the world's best player under him. Sadio Mane was the world's best player under him. You know, from Egypt and, forgive me, where's Sadio Mane from? Algeria? No.
Senegal?
Senegal. You know, name any other Egyptian or Senegalese player. You know, they don't have footballing traditions like the big teams do. They're more like the United States, where maybe they have a player come and go every now and then. And under him, players like him, them excelled. So I understand why Jurgen Klopp is, of the big-name managers, he's like number one. However, he turned it down. And I guess what I learned from a German journalist, when he was at Liverpool, he made $55 million a year.
Wow, all right.
Did you realize that's how much he got paid?
No, I did not know that.
That blew my mind. I thought high-paid managers got paid 10, 15, right? No. Jurgen Klopp made $55 million a year. No. $25 million from Liverpool and $30 million from his marketing tie-ins or whatever.
Okay.
And it's like the United States right now has a $45 million surplus, and I thought $20 million would be a great offer for someone like Jurgen for 2 years, right? Or maybe even $40 million for like 2 years. That's a huge pay cut. So he's said no to a job that paid him $55 million a year. To offer him a salary for him to reconsider his retirement must be at least twice that, right? Who the hell has $100 million a year?
But
the reason I bring that up is this. I would feel irresponsible taking $200 million US in a nation that's biggest problem is our pay-to-play youth programs. I would have a problem if U.S. Soccer took $200 million cash and gave it to Jurgen Klopp to be our head coach for 1 year. I would not feel right about that. I'd be like, if you can have $200 million cash, that should go entirely to youth programs in the inner cities. That's where I'm coming with that. Okay. I would find that just be irresponsible.
There's also the equal pay situation, right? They have some
That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
No?
Jeff Carlisle came out and said that the women and the men's head coach contracts are entirely separate. They can negotiate whatever they want.
I think legally, they could, but I think it also.
You mean as PR wise?
Yeah, that's also it's a little weird if you would be like, we're paying him $1 billion. If it's that, if you're talking about those kinds of sums, the flip side of that argument would be like clearly he has other priorities than just money, or else he would not have walked away from this enormous paycheck on his own accord. So it's not like I think
he has $300 million in the bank, so who cares?
It's not like I think if he was into it, I think he wouldn't be like, oh, you can only pay me
salary demanding.
I don't know.
The DFB isn't going to pay.
Obviously, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't. Not no Bundesliga team would either.
Probably
the economics just aren't there. So he's got to be prepared. Whatever he does next, he's got to be prepared to get paid a little bit less, probably, unless he wants to go to Saudi Arabia or something. But anyway, which
is very real. So that's Jurgen Klopp, dream candidate. Whatever, he already said no. He was offered.
He doesn't want to do it.
He was offered the job, which is a good sign. And real quick, to preface this, by the way, too, Matt Crocker has come out, and in his statement, he has made it very clear that when he re-signed Greg, he was fresh at the job, and he, quote-unquote, didn't have the full scope of what
didn't know what he was doing.
Remember, he essentially admitted that. And he says, we are searching for a serial winner. This was a serial winner. And the search is also very clearly international, not just domestic. And there's been a lot of... Anyway, so just to let you know, those are the caveats. Serial winner...
If we're just looking at...
Elite.
Serial winner, elite, yeah.
Okay. So I have grouped all these potential coaches in categories. We've got domestic MLS, domestic former U.S. staffers, the European Americans, the Germans, the French, the Brits, the Argentinians, and then the other.
Let's get into it.
Okay, all right.
I love
Let's start with domestic MLS. Okay.
Which is basically Berhalter, the sequel.
Exactly. Okay,
Steve
number
Cherundolo.
one. Steve Cherundolo, yeah.
Who looked like in his news conference, he had this sheepish grin like he already had the job. when he
just
was
like Jesse
denying,
Marsh, just
when
like
he
Jesse
was
Marsh.
denying that when he was saying how he was fully committed to being the coach of LAFC and he was coming to training every day and he has a grin on his face as if he already knew. So, but the Twitter sphere was not happy with this.
No, neither am I. Neither am I. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's just first things first. The realistic. What's the word I'm looking? The realability.
Oh, he's gonna do it if they give it to him.
Right.
He'll do it.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
That's close to 100%.
High, very high.
Now let's talk reality. He becomes the U.S. head coach. How perfect of a fit is that? Do you think, Bjorn?
I mean, I think.
Or unperfect?
Well, I think people are gonna hate it. I hate him as much.
Don't
as
worry
they
about the
hate
people. We're not here to talk about the Twitter sphere. We're here to talk. You and I. The game is Bjorn and I run U.S. Soccer. We're running the interviews, and then we have to talk out our candidates and see who the best candidates are. Don't worry about the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's fine.
So fine. What is that? 5 out of 10? 6 out of 10?
Well, what's Greg?
Would you describe Steve Cherundolo as a serial winner?
No.
Me neither. He's won one MLS title in his entire coaching career. It's the only title he's won. He failed.
But
at Vegas.
I also don't think.
Failed at Stuttgart.
I guess that wouldn't be my. That wouldn't be my. I wouldn't say that would be my main. The serial winner thing. That wouldn't be my main criterion for picking somebody. But okay, if that's what you want, he's not that.
Well, I think what you're alluding to, Steve Cherundolo is sort of just a lateral move from Greg almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not
definitely.
like he's a bombastic.
But I don't think that's bad. I thought Greg was fine. So I don't think.
Don't even say that. Steve Cherundolo, I think, is more attacking. I would be more excited with Steve Cherundolo than Greg. He does have a title. He does seem to be a little bit more open and flexible with the tactics. He does seem to set his teams up to attack a little better. But Steve Cherundolo also dealt with a much bigger budget in LAFC. They're like the
But
big,
he still has good development credentials and all
right.
that.
And Steve Cherundolo was the assistant coach of the Germany U15s, and he spent time at Hannover.
Yeah, he's got some youth. He's got some youth coach experience. By the way, all of the 4 finalists, 3 of the 4 finalist coaches at the Copa and the Euro are all youth coaches.
Right.
And
wait a minute, say that again. 3 of the 4 finalists of the Euros and the Copa?
The Euros and the Copa. I'm talking about Argentina, Colombia, Spain, and England. 3 of the 4 coaches are youth coaches.
They were youth coaches.
And that's kind of their. And the only person that doesn't apply to is the Colombian coach, and he was an assistant for a long time. He also had a. So none of these people have successful winning club backgrounds.
And that kind of leads to another discussion, which we'll talk about later, maybe with Joachim Löw and Gareth Southgate. Kind of what we talked about earlier. And also that leads to another discussion about, like, you got club coaches, or you can hire coaches from within your system, which I have a couple of pitches. That's also
and that used to be in
Gareth
Germany.
Southgate comes from.
Used to be and that in Germany that used to be the thing. You have like the guy, the former assistant, and gets the job.
Or the
Jupp Derval, Helmut Schön's assistant. Jupp Derval got the job. Bertie Vogts was Jupp's assistant, and then he got the job. That's how that worked. Anyway,
we had that happen once. We had that happen once too, and it was a disaster. But with what's his face, the '98 guy, Bora's old assistant. Anyway, okay. So domestic MLS, that's Stevie Cherundolo. My final thoughts on Steven Cherundolo is I would be excited for him after a couple more titles. I'd love for him to get a little more.
Get some more. Yeah, so in the next couple weeks, can you get a couple titles?
Right. Jim Curtin. So now here we go. So Jim Curtin, the Philadelphia Union coach. How would you feel about this? Let's say he was announced as U.S. head coach tomorrow.
Well, he said previously that he'd be happy to be an assistant.
Under Jesse Marsh, yeah.
That would probably be good.
Which seems like a missed opportunity at this point. That seems like that probably is what should have happened a year ago. But it didn't happen. Jesse's gone and Jim's with Philly. What are your thoughts on Jim Curtin being the next head coach?
I mean, I think he's like, if I was hiring a coach for my team, I would pick Greg over him for sure.
Like your club, like for NYCFC, you're saying?
For example, or for Brooklyn FC. I don't know. For my
So if you felt
for my
between Jim
imaginary
Curtin,
team,
so between Jim Curtin and Greg Berhalter for the U.S. job for the next 2
I'd
years,
pick-
you'd bring Greg.
I would pick. What? No, I mean clearly he should. Like that's not happening. But if you're asking me who's the better coach, I'd say Greg.
Between the two. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So the thing with Jim is Jim Curtin has no MLS Cups either. He's been the head coach of Philly for years.
Well.
They're a smaller club. He's good at bringing players through, sure. He has a couple supporter shields. I think at least one or two. I don't know.
Supporter Shield? I don't think so.
Really?
Philly?
Didn't they win a supporter shield?
Philly a
years ago?
Supporter Shield? I don't believe so.
Let me look that up, actually. But Jim Curtin is the head of one club, and my problem with that is like we saw with Jason Kreis, you're very familiar with. Like he was great at Real Salt Lake, quote unquote. But then when he went to all these other clubs, it wasn't working. However, Garth Lagerwey, on the other hand, when he left Real Salt Lake and went to all these other clubs, the success tended to follow Garth Lagerwey.
He did very well, yeah.
It didn't follow Jason Kreis. So if you look at Jim Curtin, and let's say Jim Curtin goes to another club, and Ernst Tana or Ernie Stewart, they go to another club, who does the success follow? Does it follow Jim or does it follow Ernst Tana? You know what I mean? Philadelphia Union is very well run, I feel, from a sporting perspective. And we've seen Ernie Stewart leave Philly to go to USA and then to go to PSV. And PSV just won the title under Ernie Stewart. Under his. So we don't really. Jim is a one-club guy, and we don't know how good he's been. Honors, coaching, Supporters Shield 2020.
Well, I think the appetite.
They won the Supporters Shield, but they were the U.S. Open Cup runners-up.
Okay.
They were the U.S. Open Cup runners-up 3 times and the MLS Cup runner-up once under him. Amazing. So a lot of silver medals, a lot of success with Philly.
I think the appetite right now is for somebody a little bit bigger.
Did that change?
Bigger stature than Jim Curtin.
Yeah, so I would say very gettable, but not exciting. I think a lateral move.
Yeah.
All right, and last but not least, the Mystics?
I would say a step down. I would say a step down.
Over Greg.
Wilfried Nancy, everybody's favorite coach right now. The Xavi Alonso of MLS.
Now, this is one of those things where some of these coaches do fit into multiple categories. I could have also listed him under the Frenchman category, but I figured MLS Domestic fit his. I could have half of these coaches are bald. I could have had a whole bald category, but Wilfried Nancy's biggest criticism. Wilfried Nancy's biggest criticism is that he's a club coach and he's really leaning on a very specific system, and that's the kind of stuff that does not excel well in the national coaching realm, at least not for mid-level teams. Like for countries like Spain and stuff, you can implement a system because they just have a culture of how they play. But for a team, that's kind of what Greg did for 6 years, and it just never quite took for our player pool. So that would be maybe his one criticism is he's like a club coach. My response to that,
I don't agree with that characterization, but okay. But
my response to that,
we won't get into it now. Again.
My response to that is that he's just a smart coach and he's not an idiot. He's doing a club job. He's done 2 in a row. He was great at Montreal. He's great at Columbia. If he does the national team job, he's not an idiot. He knows it's a different type of job. And he's a good head coach. I think he'd do fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the U.S. national it's a specific thing. It's hard to say, but yeah, he seems great, and he's everybody's favorite coach right now. So, sure, I endorse.
Yeah, if you had to pick domestic MLS, Wilfried Nancy would be my favorite choice. I think.
Sure.
Because he's proven it at multiple clubs. Although he's French originally, he's two club, but he's also a huge college coach before that. And although he's French originally, he moved to Quebec when he was like 20. I think he went to college in Quebec, and he's been in Canada, and he's an MLS guy. He's from the domestic system, so his understanding of the system is very clear. That's where he
does he want to do it? We don't know.
Apparently, no. I think the rumors are no. But it's a high-paying job. It's a good. He wants to go to Europe next. But the U.S. is a great way to go to Europe. That's what happened with Bob, and it could have happened with Bruce and stuff.
With Bob?
So those are yeah, he coached in Europe afterwards.
Like the 3 months at Swansea, you're going to count?
No. After the U.S. national team, Bob coached in Norway for 2 years, France for a year, Egypt for a year, and then 3 months.
Wonderful. Okay, great.
You got to bring facts, baby. And then Bruce turned down Denmark after the '06 World Cup. What I'm saying
I
is
don't think
when the U.S.
if Bob Bradley
and Greg is about to go to Holland or something, I'm sure. And when you're done with the U.S. job, the European clubs do start opening up for you in a way they don't after you do MLS. So what I'm saying is if Wilfred...
Okay. All right.
Yeah, give me I just gave you an example of it happening every time.
Well, for
Dave
Bruce
Saracen
Arena,
now coaches in Israel. Yeah, he turned it down. He said, no, thank you. He turned it down.
Okay.
He was offered the head coaching position at Brøndby. Did you know that?
I don't think of Bob Bradley as a successful European coach either, but okay.
I didn't say successful.
It's all
I said he wants to go. If Wilfred Nancy wants to go coach in France, he can do it straight from the Columbus Crew, or he can do it after a national team stint was at the World Cup. The second scenario is more realistic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Former
U.S. staffers. Yeah, this is the more.
Like I said, some national teams run
the classic way. Yeah, this is how all of the currently successful, or a large majority of the currently successful national teams find their people.
Right.
In the youth, promoting assistants and youth coaches. Right. So Tab Ramos,
former U20 coach, former assistant of the Jordan Klinsmann,
is the first name that comes to mind. Would anybody jump out of their seat? Not really.
I wouldn't. People love Tab. They pitch Tab a lot. I don't get it. His U20s were okay at best, I thought. I didn't follow them super closely, but I remember they were doing really well in a tournament a couple years ago. So I watched the quarterfinals between the Venezuelan U20s and our U20s, and we were terrible. We were just like, we couldn't hold the ball. It was just bad. I'm like, this is the team everyone was gaga over. And then since then, Tab Ramos became the head coach at Houston Dynamo, very forgettably, right?
Yeah,
and
that didn't work out, really.
I think he was the head coach somewhere else, too, wasn't he? I think he's the head coach of Hartford United now or something like that. All I know is that people love Tab. They pitch Tab a lot, and Tab, in my opinion, has done nothing in his coaching career to prove that, yeah, he was a Hartford Athletic. Now he's an assistant at New England Revolution under Caleb Porter. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think this will not appease the fan base.
Yeah, well, let's pretend that the fan base has nothing to do with it. Do you think this is a smart choice? Do you think it's like Tab is the best choice for the next 2 years? The world, do you think?
No, I don't think so.
Me neither. Hugo Perez.
Yeah, I was thinking about him.
Yeah, a lot of people pitch him. They like him. He is. He had a falling out with U.S. Soccer.
I was gonna say he's got beef, right? I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, but he can fix that. It's just stuff. He worked at U.S. Soccer for many years.
He really is the because often you see this, right, with Scaloni currently in Argentina. The people who have coached those players when they were youths, and then kind of follow them through and there's just a comfort with that. And he has, right? He coached Pulisic and he coached all those guys. So he is the he would be a good candidate in my opinion. And he's done well. He's done well with El Salvador. He has experience. He's got relevant experience, CONCACAF experience. He knows these people. I think he gets a thumbs up from me.
You see here, he was the El Salvador assistant, U23, and the senior coach, and he did a big thing bringing in a lot of Salvadoran Americans, and his big coming out party was his work with the El Salvador team. However, and although they did well, El Salvador I think finished last in the Hex or something, or second to last. They didn't get to the World Cup.
It's El Salvador.
Yeah.
So
thumbs up for you.
He's a thumbs up for me. But you think the beef is? I don't think U.S. Soccer is good at mending beefs historically.
Matt Crocker and Guguchi Onyewu, they were hired within the last year.
They have no beef with
his beef is with. The U.S. Soccer staff turns over every 2 years, so I think his beef is with people aren't there anymore. Okay. I don't know what it is. All I know is that Hugo Perez, like U.S. Soccer historically has a very anti-Latino sort of vibe to them. I think has been criticized from guys like Kurt Gomez, and that's why a lot of Mexican Americans choose Mexico as opposed to United and stuff. Mm-hmm. And Hugo Perez, I think, was like the one exception, but he left when that was too much for him. I think is kind of the beef. Someone with better in the comments or something, someone with more specific stories.
All right.
All I know is that Hugo Perez worked for a long time. They left, so he's on. So Hugo Perez, thumbs up for you. I think we should shoot higher. But I'm curious to see how he does it. He was very confident.
He fits the profile of many other type of
National team
successful national team coaches.
All right, so that's that. Hugo Perez. Okay, now we have the European Americans category.
Let's go. This is really great. I'm enjoying it.
Thank you.
Pellegrino Matarazzo. Does he have any interest?
I mean, he's American. I don't. He's very happy at Hoffenheim. I don't think he wants to leave Hoffenheim right now. But but people are talking about him.
No,
he's like the kind of guy. He's an American, so he's from the country. But as a soccer professional, he's a German Bundesliga guy. Mm-hmm. He understands the German level, which is a very high level, one of the highest levels in the world. And was it fair to say he excels? Is that too much of a word? In the German system right now, he's in his second senior coaching job.
I think excels is.
Yeah, maybe excels is too much.
Is a stretch.
But he's doing it.
He's a working coach in the Bundesliga.
A working coach
for a number of years.
Yeah, Jesse Marsch couldn't break 2 months or whatever.
Right. So he lasted longer than that. But no, definitely. You're right.
Pellegrino's 2 teams, Stuttgart. Stuttgart got way better after he left. And now Hoffenheim. And Hoffenheim are doing fine under him. They're doing fine under him.
Fine. Yeah. True.
But, so he has no titles. I don't. There's
definitely
no titles.
Definitely not a serial winner.
Right.
Definitely no institutional history.
Right.
Of any relevance.
I think his brother works for U.S. Soccer, by the way, so that might be an unfortunate parallel.
we love that, right?
I don't know if we do love that. I don't think we do love that.
Well, I don't know if we love that, but U.S. Soccer seems to love that.
But let's say he was announced. So the gettability is on the lower end. I'd put it mid. I wouldn't say it's impossible.
Oh, I think he would do it.
Yeah, right? If they called him and offered it to him?
Yeah.
So his gettability is there, but let's pretend it happened tomorrow. Do you think that'd be a good appointment?
I think it's total question mark. I think it's extremely. I don't think we have any. I don't think I have anything to base an opinion on. I don't know if he. I mean, I also don't know. Does he even follow? Does he know the player pool? Is he like really?
Yeah, but sure, but yeah, he can. I mean, I think he does, but also you can learn that, right? How long does it take you to figure out the player pool?
If he's into it, yeah, he definitely could. Yeah. It's big question mark. I don't know. I think I think he is the kind of person that a lot of the knee-jerk people are looking for. There's definitely an appetite for a European person,
right? For
an international person. So I think, but he ironically has so little American experience, right?
Right. I think almost none.
I think the
he's from the college game. He was a player.
But of course, this person that really people want is like a former MLS coach who made it big in Europe, and this is just not a thing. Like those people don't.
There's
exist.
only 2 of them. There's only 2.
There's only.
Or a handful of them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So
I guess Frank de Boer might follow that category then, but I don't know if he's necessarily successful.
He hasn't been successful anyway.
I have a few of them on the list, so no.
All right. So no.
So last thing.
Question mark. No idea.
No idea. What I will say, Pellegrino is from the college game. He played for Columbia, and then he went to Germany as a young man, and he earned all of his stripes strictly off being a coach's mind. He's just a coach. Like I guess he was a player, I think, at lower level league for a while. Yeah. But then I think the story is he was in the same coaching badge class with Nagelsmann, I think. Julian Nagelsmann, I believe. And they were very close, and they were like brothers because they worked together at Hoffenheim then after that.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's just one of the dudes who's like from that class of coaches, and he's just a whiz. He's like a whiz. I don't know how to say. He's like a coaching. He earned his coach's badges as a young American with no playing experience or very little.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's yeah.
All right. I think he'd be fine. I wouldn't be against, but you're right. He's got no titles, so it's a different type of job.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, he'd probably be fine, but definitely, if to me, a lateral would also be probably a lateral move. Definitely not an upgrade necessarily, although you never know. Who knows?
I would be more excited by Pellegrino than Greg. I think Pellegrino is also not obsessed with his systems and stuff.
Everybody has tired of Greg, but
well, what I'm saying is when Pellegrino was interviewed last year for his plan versus Bayern versus plan versus Bochum or something, he's like, every club gets a new plan. It's like that's not how I coach. He's like I look at my players and I look at who we're playing and I go from there. And I was like, that's exactly the mentality you need to be a national team coach, right?
All right.
He doesn't do the whole like, oh, I position play every game. All right. Other European American, David Wagner, a.k.a. David Wagner. He has a U.S. passport. He played for the U.S. in the 90s. The Canadians complained because they felt he was not an American. He was not American enough. They challenged his visa status. I believe he was cleared, so he has a U.S. passport. But he is a German dude. He was Jurgen Klopp's right-hand man, like how Pellegrino is with Nagelsmann. Yeah. David Wagner is with Klopp. But so he coached Norwich, he coached Huddersfield, he coached in Switzerland, he coached Schalke. He is a working European top-flight coach.
But even compared to Pellegrino, more up and down, right? Like his
achievement was he took his coming out party was taking Huddersfield Town to the Prem.
Okay.
He won the promotion that year. I don't know if they won the championship.
And then it all went up. And then it all went up in flames. Yeah.
Right. And then he went to Schalke after that, and then that was the beginning of Schalke being ruined as a club.
That didn't really work. Yeah.
But can we blame him for that? And then
it's
he
hard
went
to say. But he's also just. He's not a fantastic. He doesn't have fantastic credentials, and his American connection is tenuous. So, there's like hundreds of people like him that you could find.
So you're not excited by this appointment?
No, I don't think so.
Me neither. I think it's good that he's a working coach in Europe. I know he was decent at Stuttgart, but they still fired him because, or was he at Basel? He was at Grasshoppers. So he's one of those Swiss clubs, and they got second or third place, and they fired him because it was the first time they haven't won in a while or something. And now he's at Norwich with Josh Sargent. Like, he understands the American player. He's coached McKennie. Now he's coaching Josh Sargent. The other thing I want to bring up with certain coaches is their relationship to the American player. The American player is a thing, for better or for worse. Like Oscar Pereira in Orlando, people think he'd be a good choice. He purposely only doesn't play Americans. He doesn't think they're good enough. There's like a certain coach, and there's other coaches here we'll get into. They just have a history of not really knowing what to do with the American player. So giving them the reins to the U.S. men's national team, I find, would be a huge mistake. It's just like, that's essentially all you have to do is you have to figure out how to win with the American player. They don't have the same swagger or ball skills that an Argentinian or Brazilian's going to have. And they also don't necessarily have the same IQ that a German player is going to have, or a British player, or a Dutch player, Well,
I guess in that sense, he would be... he definitely has some experience at lower levels. He's not just used to.
So he has a victory with Huddersfield.
But the championship is also pretty cutthroat. It's not necessarily a development league in that sense. It's like,
and he pulled it off. Well, at least once, I think, with Norwich.
But I'm saying it's a different. It's a slightly different skill set than a national team coach. Or the U.S. national team coach, because it's a little bit. You have to take a little bit of a longer view, I think.
Right.
I don't know. Again,
but you do have to
same kind of thing. No idea.
Championship, though, it's not a blank check. You have to be creative with your roster, right? Don't you? A little bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No.
And the U.S. men's national team is like that.
It's a brutal. It's a brutal league. Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's not. You're not like. That's why you don't have that luxury really to. Develop players as much as like you need results immediately. But so I guess that's similar in the national team. There's no patience either, especially in the US these days.
So thumbs down for David Wagner.
Thumbs. The twitchy thumb. That's the question mark thumb. No idea.
Schnitzel Boys, it's the Schnitzel